listeners and readers of AwardsWatch.com. This is the Awards Watch Podcast, episode 347. I'm your executive editor, Ryan McQuade, and joining me today is Josh Parham.
Hello, hello.
Josh, it's just you and me today.
Yes, very intimate, this episode.
Do you always feel like these are very intimate episodes when it's just you and me? It's just
I think for the most part, yeah.
Just turn the lights down and get down to the movies. You know,
now we can say what we really feel.
We're not fighting each other or trying to make parlays like we did last week on the retrospective. we just get to sit back and review some stuff. It's a hot time for the movies right now, Josh.
Yeah, a lot is out and doing very well too.
A lot is out. A lot is doing well. I wanted to get right off at the bat here and just say that we are going to be reviewing a bunch of things that we weren't able to catch up with over the last couple of weeks, and I feel sort of responsible for our audience to hear some of these films. So we're going to talk about Masters of the Universe. We're going to talk about I Love Boosters, Backrooms, Blue Film, Blue Heron, and Obsession. And two of those films in particular, Backrooms and Obsession, have become literally the obsessions of the box office right now. So if you're wanting Mandalorian and Grogu conversations, we're just going to skip it. Much like audiences across the country.
Yeah. We're joining them in that, yes.
Josh, Star Wars in a really bad place right now, right? Like, just...
It's in a spot where, quite frankly, it is predictable, because I think that since that property has just existed on television these last couple years, that I've always found it was going to be a struggle to get people to go back to the movies to see a Star Wars film, especially one that is based off of a television property. That always felt kind of weird to me, that your first invite back to see Star Wars in theaters is something that you are just going to wait till it's on Disney Plus. So I think that there is room for them to improve, but yeah, it's in a tough spot right now.
I think if they wanted to, if they were smart about it, they don't do what you just said, which is what they've done, which is make a television show into a 2-hour movie and just waste all of our time.
Yeah.
What they should have done is got somebody to come up with an idea for a trilogy, to continue Rey's storyline, back up the truck full of money to that cast, maybe rewrite a lot of the rules and the shit that happened in Rise of Skywalker, and get the franchise back on a consistent track through one visionary mind and go from there. And
people don't like those characters, though. I don't. I think people
those characters made them billions of dollars.
Yeah, but
you know,
I think Rise of Skywalker truly was so terrible that people are like, we're done with this new trilogy.
But I do think that there was like a look at us talking about Star Wars when we were going to talk about Star Wars. But
yeah, no.
But like there was like a growth of excitement online with the announcement of the Soderbergh property, and that they canceled it. And people were like, what are you talking about? Like, we would kill to see this thing, or give Rian Johnson that trilogy, or give, even though I don't think he's a particularly great director, give Taika Waititi that trilogy that he was talking about, or Patty Jenkins that X-Wing film, or whatever the case may be. They had like a dozen filmmakers, it feels like, that have announced projects. And any one of those people, give them a singular vision. And yeah, you want to know why people would probably go see them, Josh? Because they'll have lightsabers, because they'll have the Force, because they'll have cool shit. And that's the problem with Mandalorian and Grogu. It doesn't have any cool shit. It's got a thing for kids that everybody's got all the toys for already. So it's in a really bad place. And which is crazy, because guess what? Next year's the 50th anniversary. And it would have been a great time to release episode 10, you know.
Well, aren't they re-releasing the first movie in its original form? Yeah,
in IMAX. It's going to be big. People are going to go see it.
Make more money than Mandalorian. Wouldn't that be funny?
Well, I don't think it's going to make $300 million, but it's going to make a crap ton of money. Like, you know, it's like a limited engagement kind of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. But still, Josh, the movies though are like just out of control right now. People are going to see things left and right. The month of May reported, was it $1 billion in the month of May alone, which is the first time since post COVID that we've had something like that.
Yeah, I think
And
AMC said that May was the highest attendance that they had had since 2019.
which is crazy.
Yeah,
Which that means that, Josh, we can fully say it. Movies are back. And given
it
the
seems like it.
diversity of films that are out there, this is in large part to do with obviously blockbusters like Mandalorian and Grogu, but really Devil Wears Prada, which has done a fantastic job. But then it has to do with some of these smaller films that we're going to talk about today. I want to get the biggest film out of the way. I want to talk about like all the bad stuff up front, and then I want to talk about all the good stuff at the end. So I want to talk about Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
I want to talk about like a movie that on paper seemed like would be a lot of fun. Travis Knight, like a director, did the Bumblebee movie. He's pretty like decent director. Wouldn't say he's got anything like bad against his resume until now, which is like got Masters of the Universe. Josh, I didn't see this thing yet. I've seen every popcorn bucket that CinemaCon had, which it kind of seemed like they were trying to build this one up as like this is a big deal. Amazon's coming off of having one of the big success stories of the year in Project Hail Mary, and this is their promise of they're going to deliver films for audiences on this scale. It's like 140 million, 150 million
Something
dollar
like
budget,
that. Yeah.
and it made 35 million dollars at the box office in America. Not good.
Yep.
Not good
great,
at all.
Bob.
You saw it. What'd you think?
Unfortunately, yeah, I did see
Oh,
it.
unfortunately, well, you kind of tipped your hand there. Why is it not
Yeah.
good?
This is a atrocious movie, and and I've had so many people like in my mentions too about how like, oh, you should just have fun. It's lighthearted and it's, enjoy the ride. But the problem for me is like this movie fundamentally fails right up front because it really is inherently kind of mocking its own material. Like there's a ton of jokes about how it's self-referential of like, oh yeah, it's called the Sword of Power. I know they couldn't come up with a better name for that. And to me, it felt actually very insincere in terms of the world that it was in. And the comparison that I always kept making in my mind is something like Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Like that is a very silly movie that takes place in this like medieval fantasy realm, but it doesn't take like the rules itself or the world silly necessarily. Like it has a light tone, but those characters are very sincere in the world that they're in. And I didn't feel that way with Masters of the Universe. It felt very much like, yeah, we know this is stupid, acknowledge that it's stupid and laugh at the stupidity, but not in a way that felt like it was engaging me at all. And I felt a lot of the humor to be very tiresome because of that. I felt that all the characters are just really flatly drawn, and I didn't find myself engaging with them a great deal. I will say, unfortunately, I kind of have to hand it to Jared Leto because he's like actually like legitimately good in the movie, and he's a fun villain. But they don't even do a great job of defining him very much, and he is just a very flat character that is elevated by the performance, but not much else. I found this movie to be a very kind of tiresome and tedious experience to get through, and I wanted to like it, but I really, really found myself kind of hating it.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Dungeons and Dragons movie was a surprise because that movie had a lot of fun and it was from the
Yeah.
game night guys and it has their own style and brand of humor. You know, Josh, the number one thing that I always look at a movie and I go, ooh, I don't know if that's good. And you got 5 writers on the darn thing. It's never a good idea. That's too many. I think that's always usually too many cooks in the kitchen there.
Yeah.
It looked like a lot. It looked, I mean, 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's got to be an extremely long
That's
runtime for
also
a movie
another
like
thing.
two.
Absolutely. Like no reason it should have been that long.
I think people are kind of rejecting a little bit of those long ass run times right now. I don't know. There's something about the under 2 hour experience right now in theaters. People are really gravitating towards. But Master of the Universe is in theaters. Josh is saying don't see it.
And apparently so many people are agreeing with me.
And I think people have listened to Josh Parham.
I mean, that's also just the other thing is that Masters of the Universe, first of all, based on a cartoon that was literally created just to sell toys. Like the toys
Yeah.
actually came first before the
Well,
cartoon.
this is the
And
another Mattel experiment after Barbie. This is the second one.
yes, and a lot of people say this is like Barbie for boys, which I find to be like very reductive in terms of
Well,
that
that comes from a
analysis.
singular voice rather than what
Yeah.
feels like a group thing. No, I haven't seen the film obviously, but that's what it kind of feels like just from the
E-
trailers and the aspect of it all, and it feels very discount. And
and I would argue that that with Barbie was a specific point that that movie was trying to make.
yeah,
And there's like elements of that in this movie, but it's not the point of the movie. And even though like, okay, I'm just gonna say
you can say
this
whatever
that
you want. Yeah.
there is a moment when where a character is supposed to be like it's about like, tapping into your sensitive side where you're supposed to listen to emotions and have empathy and all of that, and like that's the moment of a true hero. And then he expresses that, and then literally 2 seconds later he just starts beating up a bad guy, and it's like, well, we're just gonna still resolve this with violence. And it's like, well, what is the message of your movie? Like, even in that very basic definition of like trying to change the status of a hero, you're still doing the same thing. And it just, I hated it. I really did. It's such a bad movie.
It sounds like it. Maybe I'll watch it when it's on Prime. You know, I feel
Yeah.
like it feels like a Prime watch. Honestly, doesn't feel like a theater watch, which
I
is
would not recommend it. No.
okay. Well, watch it be nominated for like visual effects or something like that, and I have to watch it, to be the completest, right, Josh?
No.
You
Yeah,
know,
that is our curse.
that's sometimes I mean, you watch is it the Lost Bus?
Yes,
Yeah, and you had to do it. You had to do it.
I had to.
Would you rather watch the Lost Bus or the Masters of the Universe again? I know the answer.
I mean, well, I mean, I guess The Lost Bus is technically like a better made movie,
It's
but at least
shorter.
like,
It's
yeah,
shorter. You watch that film. It's shorter. Get through it
yeah, I
painlessly.
probably would. I could just look up Nicholas Galantine images online and like that's
He
enough for
looks
me.
good. He
Yeah,
looks the
but
part.
I don't need 2 hours and 12 minutes of that to justify that movie.
Yeah, but he's also just not a good actor. We gotta. He's not the red, white, and royal blue actor that I prefer out of the two.
No, he's better in another Amazon movie, The Sheep Detectives.
Well, I haven't seen that.
You should. It's a great
I
movie.
really want to. It left theaters here. Um, when it's on VOD, I'm gonna watch the shit out of those Sheep Detectives.
I cried at The Sheep Detectives.
That is the overwhelming sentiment. Is that like Sophia and our good friend Christina Yerling Biro were talking about this at Cannes. Like there were films at Cannes that were far worse than something like The Sheep Detective.
Yeah.
They were rating it. Is this better than Sheep Detective? I don't think so. There was a lot of films. There's a lot of films that didn't clear the bar. So I've heard it being compared to like the Paddington of this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as good. Like I
I
do
don't think
want to
it's as
like
good as that, but it's a
temper
good
expectations a
surprise.
little bit.
Yeah.
Like, it's a family movie, so like the mystery is not the most inventive thing on the planet.
But
Like
I heard it's a good
it's
mystery.
for what it is,
Yeah.
it's not like a great movie, but it is for the type of film that it is trying to be. It is very, very well done.
Hey, it got you to cry. That's not
Yes,
easy.
honestly, at multiple points.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, especially at the end. There's
Don't
something involving
qualify
a
it, man.
cloud
You
at the end
like
of the
that movie a
movie.
lot.
I do. I do really like it. It's very good.
Speaking of a movie I don't know if you like or not, Boots Riley has a new film. It's called I Love Boosters. With an absolutely just, I gotta say, an absolutely stacked cast in this
Yeah.
movie. When I was watching it back at South by, I was just amazed by the cast here, which features Kiki Palmer, Naomi Aki, Taylor Page, Poppy Lou, Isa Gonzalez, Demi Moore, Lakeith Stanfield, Will Poulter, Don Cheadle. Just you can keep. I could keep going if I wanted to,
Yeah.
but there's so many people in this film. It's it's a film from the mind of Boots Riley, and it's about sort of these this fearless crew of women who are like shoplifting or stealing the clothes of this sort of fashion conglomerate company led by Demi Moore. There's a lot of interesting things. Boots Riley, of course, is a very singular voice. Whether you like that or not is another story. So we're going to talk about that. Josh, I don't know. Did you like Sorry to Bother You?
I admired that movie.
Same.
I don't know if I loved it or even liked it all that much, but I appreciated so many of the ideas and the ambition behind it.
Correct. I did as well. I thought the first two thirds was a pretty great film. And then the horse stuff starts
And then the
happening.
horses,
And then,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then I was like, son of a bitch. It had so much going for it. And it had a lot of originality. Boots Riley since is like soured for me. Just from that year alone, just the way he spoke about Spike Lee.
Yeah, he got into the fights with Spike Lee a lot. I remember that.
The I'm a Virgo TV series I didn't think was a particularly great series.
Mm.
But I still saw this film. Josh, I'll say my part up front. I saw this at South by. Um, I thought that this was like a double down of all the worst things that he's been doing, and I just kind of feel like it's even a less coherent vision than I'm Sorry to Bother You. The fashion stuff is interesting. The multiverse stuff is not. The whatever the hell Lakeith Stanfield's doing stuff is, and then the stuff then with the reveal that happens with Don
Yeah,
Cheadle's character and all those actors, not particularly great there either. But that's the problem. It's like then it's got this kind of heist quality to it with this really great score and like kind of like original song that moves the thing. So it's always moving, but I don't think it particularly lands anywhere. And then tries to have a message at the end, and it just feels kind of unearned. And just because you're original and you're throwing everything at the screen doesn't mean it's executed in like a properly coherent, or even it doesn't even have to be coherent with him, just in a way that just seems consistent. And I thought, in terms of quality, I thought the consistency here was a bit of a mess in terms of quality. So I did not like it at all. And I think he's become cilantro for me. Like, I love cilantro, but I know for some people it tastes like soap.
yeah.
And I think that's what Boot Riley is for me. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I liked the movie. I will say that. I did enjoy the film, but I do agree that it is incredibly messy, just like Sorry to Bother You was. But at least Sorry to Bother You, I got the sense that it had a very clear directive, at least thematically, and this one is much more muddled. But it is one of those situations where there's so many sequences that are just so wildly inventive and creative that I'm willing to go with it, even though the final destination is very murky to me. But in the moment, I have to admit, like, I did have a lot of fun with it. And a lot of that is because of his creativity and in assembling so many of these sequences. And as we've been seeing kind of online, there's even a lot of practicality to how they pulled that off too, which of course makes me appreciate it even more. So I love the energy and tone to it. I think a lot of the performances are really good. Like, I think Keke Palmer is great. I really like Taylor Page in it as well. So it's a very messy movie, and it doesn't quite stick the landing for sure. And definitely as it goes on, I would argue that there is something with the Don Cheadle reveal that reminded me very much of the horses in I'm Sorry to Bother You. So yeah, I liked it. It was not a great movie, though, I will admit. Very, very disorganized. But ultimately, like, there were enough individual elements that it added up to something that I really did still appreciate all the same.
Neon film. Neon's going to be like everywhere during the rest of the year. That box set's getting bigger and bigger by the year, Josh.
Yeah.
It's an interesting film. I don't know if it's made a lot of money yet, or if it's made any. It's kind of gotten
Well, Boots Riley is lurking on every corner of Twitter to promote that
he is
film.
trying to promote it.
Which, like, I get it,
I mean,
all power
you
to him,
gotta
but I just
hustle,
feel like I
you
I
know,
cannot tweet about that movie because he will just show up somewhere. Like,
or
I
show
literally
up.
feel like I can't talk about it because I don't want Boots Riley in my mentions.
He's like it's a boogeyman. You know what I mean? He's just gonna show up, you know. Say
But he's
his
doing the
name.
work, you
He's
know.
doing the
I
work. He's trying to do the best he can. It is kind of crazy that like he's I guess an auteur if I were really going to hand him that label. And I don't know if I want to. I'm just saying he can have
I
it.
mean, in the traditional
In a
sense
sense,
of
he
what an
is.
auteur
Yeah,
is,
he
yes.
is that. Um, it doesn't really feel like it got the push, which is kind of a sad thing. I don't know who. I mean, it's such an interesting film because of how the hell do you market the thing? It's got comedy, it's got action, it's a chase film, it's got claymation stop animation, it's got a lot of to say about his usual politics, which are just drenched all over the film, for better and worse.
Yeah. Crafts
And
are good too. Like I love the costume design in this movie. I would love for it to
I love the
contend for
production
costume
design.
design.
I think
Yeah,
like
both of
I
them are
think
great.
from a technical aspect, like I think the animation's really great when they have those sequences. The creature design's creepy as hell, for Lakeith. You'll have to see that when you see it, folks.
Yeah.
It's one of those where you're just like, God damn
It's
it.
like,
And like,
okay, all right,
honestly,
we're doing this.
once again, riding a great wave of momentum in that movie, and then that happens, you're like, God, ugh. It's frustrating because it's like if I could just get you to stay on the tracks, if I could just get you to color this painting that you're doing inside your lines, I think it would be great. You
Like
know,
pull one thing away from
yeah,
all the
just like
craziness,
somebody tell him no. Like, somebody tell him, you know, no offense to Boots Riley, but you haven't made a consistent amount of great films over your filmography to be able to get the advantage of just being like, say whatever the hell you want. Like, even a man you criticize like Spike Lee, he had stumbles and things were pulled away from him and he had to find different ways before he could get his full say on things. And even still, a full say on Spike things is never always a great thing either. That could
Yeah.
be hit or miss either. So, but I honestly, I kind of appreciate that it exists, even if I don't like it.
Oh, for
You know what I
sure.
mean? Like it's
It's a bold
um,
movie and we need them.
it's a bold movie financed by Neon.
Yeah.
Honestly, for they're in the purchasing business a lot nowadays, but when they create something like this and allow him to do it, I commend them for giving him the means and the funds to do it. But alas, not particularly my favorite. I wanted to talk about the rest of the films. Really, three out of the last four are going to be directorial debuts. And so I'll talk about the debuts of the maybe of the year, or at least some of the most buzzed about debuts of the year, Josh. And I wanted to start with Blue Heron, which was this film that really kind of came about on the festival scene last year, and kind of built this buzz through there, and is still in theaters slowly right now. It's in some, should be on video VOD soon. It's it follows this group of six in a family, and they've relocated, and it's to Vancouver. It's a Canadian film, and it's through the eyes of like the youngest child, and without really giving away the second bit of this, it takes a turn, and in a pretty fantastic way. Josh, this is one of, I think, most celebrated films of the year by people. A lot of critics I know will consider it either their favorite, if not definitely a top tenner. For yourself, what did you think of Blue Heron?
Yeah, a considerable amount of hype
Yeah,
around this
a lot of
movie, and
five
especially by the
stars.
time I saw it. Yeah, yeah, and a
Yeah,
lot of people having a very strong emotional reaction to it as well, which maybe did not help when I eventually did see it. I think maybe it fell victim to, having too high expectations. I did really like the film, I should say that. I did think that as a sort of introspective character drama. I did find a lot of it to be very compelling. I liked the very quiet world that it was creating, where you could get the sense of a lot of tension that was happening within this family. And like, yes, there is a point when it pivots into a different perspective. And I found that to be still very interesting. I did not connect to it on quite the same emotional mindset, which I can tell you when I went to see this movie, it was a pretty much sold out screening for it. And there were people on either side of me who were crying at the end of the movie. And I just didn't have that. Like, I just didn't feel that same kind of connection to it. I admired the movie greatly, and I really appreciated so much of the filmmaking behind it. But I still felt a little bit of a remove where I could intellectually appreciate the emotions that it was bringing up and what it was trying to say about the emotional state of a lot of these characters.
Mhm.
But I personally did not cross the threshold into being like super affected myself. I do want to watch it again. I feel like maybe if I see it with that expectation now, maybe I'll have a different experience. But at this moment, I enjoyed the film. It's very well made. It didn't quite hit me as like one of the greats out there. That's not how I personally felt about it.
I think there only is only one way to talk about the rest of these films without we have to talk about some spoilers here, I think a little bit. So we will put a disclaimer in the show notes for spoilers for all you out there. But Josh, I didn't know what this movie really was about other than you're right, just the
Me
praise
neither.
for it.
Yeah.
And I kind of went into it and it slowly is building to obviously a a family dealing with a mental health issue involving one of their children and really the dynamics of a child that's different than the rest and then obviously the brother takes his life, and what I found really I wouldn't say either, Josh, I was fully emotional when I was watching it. I, though, was pretty in awe of the way in which it wants to have the conversation in the second half of the film, which then turns this narrative into a narrative documentary in a lot of ways, in this sort of investigation of the soul, of the root of the problem, of her interviewing herself and her parents.
Like as a social worker at that
Yeah,
point.
at
Yeah.
that point, that's what I think her day job is anyway, or at
Yeah.
least sort of portrayed like that. And then so the Sasha character returns in an adult form and re-examines her past as an outsider, as and for me, Josh, as sort of the lingering thing about this was that it reminded me a lot of when I was in middle school, my cousin passed away. He
Mm.
took his own life, and the emotional damage of what that did on my family is sort of similar here. There's a lot of
Hmm.
second guessing. There's a lot of blame, but there's just really not a lot of process of the way to understand that grief. And I think Sophie Ramvira, I believe or Ramvia is her name, the director here. I think that this is such an interesting way of examining things that we might have seen in other films. I was getting a lot of After Sun vibes as well too when I was
Yeah.
watching this film.
Which I will say, After Sun is another movie that so
Again,
many people had very like hugely impactful emotional reactions to, and I did not. So
I agree with you, Josh, there on that one. For me, both of these films have had the sort of lingering emotional effect after, not during.
yeah.
And yet also there is an interesting way in a debut that makes them stand out because of how the directors approach with the form to speak about their own individual grief or their own trauma. And I find that to be the interesting thing the most about it. I think that you may want to call it a gimmick. Some people might, I don't know. but I think that it's using resources on an independent budget level to create something that feels very universal. So I thought the film was very effective. I was kind of blown away by someone who could have that much honesty and control in their first film. And so I was thinking a lot about After Sun. At times I was thinking of Kelly Reichardt,
Hmm.
and as well too. But I was also just like, I think this might be a very also singular voice that we might be finding here. And to
Yeah.
hear, to read the interview that we had up on the website, as well as also hear her speak about the film, it's a deeply personal film, and I still highly recommend everybody. It's only 91 minutes, but it moves at such a methodical pace,
Hmm.
and really makes you immersed into the pain that I think that these characters are really feeling here by this loss, and they're also in the inability to help. I think that that's really something here because you're still trying to. I do this, Josh. I don't know if you do, but I play a lot in my head, a lot of things that I throughout my life that I don't fully understand sometimes, and I play it back because maybe I picked up a piece or something that along the way, or wisdom or time helps. I feel like this film kind of captured that in the best way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do think it's a very well made movie, and I want to watch it again. I really do. Like I said, I think maybe just the hype around it, I just don't think
It
maybe
was
helped in
very
that
hyped.
first initial viewing. But now that I know what to expect from it, like maybe I will come at it differently. I also will admit I was kind of recovering a little bit from a cold, so maybe I like my personal headspace wasn't that optimal either. So like I'm totally willing to give it another chance, and I hope on that second viewing like it does do more for me. Because I think there is a lot of promise there, especially from the filmmaking and storytelling that I really do appreciate. So even though it didn't quite get me in a way that it has for many other people, I still admire so much about that film.
Maybe a film that we can then talk about here that we do agree on here again. Um, Another directorial debut from Elliot Tuttle, Blue Film,
Mm.
which Josh, I feel is slowly getting into theaters, and once people can find it and start seeing it, it will invoke a lot
Oh,
of fascinating, thorny conversations to be had about this film. This movie is about a queer camboy who played by
Kieran Moore.
Kieran Moore, and he is asked to perform like an overnight service with a mysterious stranger who's paid for his company. And over the course of the one night, the two engage in sort of a war of the words and emotions as they wrestle with the impact of a shared past that they might have. And Reed Briney plays the other man here. Josh, I got to tell you, this movie has gained a reputation for being too controversial, for being asked to be presented at other festivals. It's been I forgot the festivals that didn't take it,
Yeah, let
but
me remember that because it was
but
making the festival circuit last year.
it was at the festival circuit late last year, and then I believe like Sundance and I want to say Berlin didn't take it either. Like what I mean, they could
Yeah.
reshow stuff sometimes, and I know South by didn't take it either. So it kind of skipped a lot. It's played a lot of the queer film festivals, gay film festivals here in America. It was at like New Fest, and I know Eric saw it up in San Francisco. This is a very interesting film to talk about. There's a lot going on here.
Hmm.
It's a tightrope for sure, Josh. But your thoughts on Blue Film?
So I will say I did actually see this last year. I was able to get a screener for it. I think when was that the Edinburgh Festival. So it has been a minute since I have seen the movie, but it has still lingered in my mind because of the subject matter for sure. Like this is like discourse the movie right right here. I really did like the film though, and I liked it because it does exist in a very morally gray area where you are not exactly sure what you should be rooting for in this dynamic. And I found that to be all fascinating. I liked that it was a movie that completely understood that it is talking about a relationship between these two characters that is incredibly damaging, but they are coming at it from a side of real humanity. And it forces you to engage with these individuals who normally we would just not give the time of day to, but confronting that these are still people. They're still human beings with real emotions, and it's extremely complicated. And it's not asking you to approve of any behavior that you see, but it is asking you to engage with every single person, no matter how evil you think they may be, to engage with them on a very humanistic level. And I don't feel like we get those kinds of movies anymore. And it felt like such a breath of fresh air to experience that. And even though it has been many months since I last saw the movie, it has stayed in my mind because of that. And I'm, yeah, very fascinated to see what their conversation is going to be like once more people do get to see it. Like when this hits VOD, I cannot imagine what like the online discourse is going to be like. But I kind of welcome it because I want people to be confronted with the topics that it brings up.
So I had a conversation with Eric uh, post seeing it because I thought the movie was kind of remarkable,
Mm,
and I kind of was blown away by the ways in which it was willing to go to certain places,
yeah.
particularly about a conversation about sexualization, about kinks, about how those lines are blurred, the relationship that these two have. I mean, this is a past relationship of you come to find out that, you know, this camboy knows him through him being his teacher and being sexually attracted to him when he was a child, and he was found out to be a pedophile. And that
And he
he
went to jail, like
then he went to
that
jail.
teacher, but not for molesting this character.
No, for
It was somebody else.
was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was also they found materials and things of that nature, and but he's had the lingering thoughts of wanting to be with him since he was a child.
Yeah.
And through these conversations, they pull up the trauma and that that Kieran Moore's faced, and also just the blurred lines between what is acceptable and unacceptable. And it does it, I think, without trying to judge. I think it
Right.
tries, I think it tries to do it through a lens of, I wouldn't say sympathy either. I would say it
No,
doesn't.
no, no,
I
no.
think it, no, because if you do that, then that's wrong. I mean, I think what it does is it presents these things and allows the audience then to project what they believe is is their opinion. And for me, as I was watching it, I was just thinking that how at first how wrong it was, but then for me, Josh, watching it, it was just like it's kind of heartbreaking because they're both terribly broken, flawed people,
Hmm.
and they're never going to get fixed. And it feels like there's been a long generational stance of trauma that's afflicted both of them. And yet the cycle of that always recurs with more trauma over and over as the pages turn. I mean, like they can't even get to, like the any forms of sex in this film are just absolutely nerve wracking, and they're very and you almost feel very queasy
Very
because
loaded, yes.
yeah, and I found that to be just it's a fascinating exercise. Also in terms of using the camboy '90s aesthetic to to this like what was it the film Plain Clothes that came
Yeah.
out I think last year or the year before. I thought
Yeah,
that kind of
it was last year.
I think that kind of film there, which is I think a little bit more straightforward and not as thorny as this one, uses that aesthetic, and I think it's okay. Here, I think it's kind of purposeful. It's almost in a sense a use to go back and examine the past, and especially the relationship of where they're at now to where they once were before, sort of the griminess of that camera and how this feels. It was very much giving the films of Todd Solondz like happiness.
Hmm.
I was
Yeah.
getting a lot of that vibe when I was watching this. I was thinking about, you know, I was thinking about some of the discussions that people had about May December and the age gap, you know, relationship quandaries that we found in Sammy Birch's script there. Lesser to a more cohesive extent there with what Haynes and the company were doing there, but still prickly enough to poke and ask questions. And
Yeah.
I think that that's fascinating enough. The, Mix that together with two absolutely incredible and raw performances from the two of them, particularly Kieran Moore, who your heart just breaks for him by the end of this movie. And it just like left a broken person. Not gonna lie, I also got like weirdly like the Before trilogy vibes to it as well, just because it's two people talking in a room and it's 82
And like
minutes.
kind of playing out like quasi real time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and kind of
Like,
like
not exactly real time, but it just
playing out one night.
one night together.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so I thought it was a rather great debut
Yeah.
from a script level because that's what this is. It's very much script level, but there are directorial flourishes that I think Tuttle has that really announce them to man. If you could thread the needle here, Josh, and this is effective, then man, you might be able to you know what can you do if you're given the bigger check, and
Yeah.
speaking of a bigger check, it leads us to our final two films, which are the two films that really everyone's talking about right now.
It's the story of the box
The
office right
story of the
now.
summer, I will
Yeah.
say. And that, of course, is Backrooms from A24 and Focus Features with Obsession. Now, I'd like to leave Obsession for the last film. And so let's talk about Backrooms, which is, what is it? Kane Parsons is his name.
Yes.
And it starts Renata Reinsva and Chiwetel Ejiofor. This is based off viral IP, YouTube IP, Josh, of these sort of endless backrooms that were built from Parsons' mind off of Reddit posts. And now he has been given $10 million to create it into a an IP driven film that is now the highest grossing film in A24 history. We just had that record broken literally last year by Timothy Chalamet. But you know what is bigger than Timothy Chalamet? Evidently the internet.
Yeah.
So Backrooms, highly anticipated film. Really, since like we've known about this for like a year, and we knew that
Yeah. It's
this
been
was
in development
coming
for a while. Yeah.
because Parsons is 20 years old, given $10 million, one of the youngest directors ever, if not the youngest director ever, to get a check from a studio like this to make a movie. It's a box office sensation. He will get another check to make another movie, whether it's A24 or somebody bigger. But Josh, is Backrooms good?
I do think Backrooms is good. I will admit that I have very little familiarity with the internet property. Like obviously, I know it's been around for a while, and just by osmosis of being online, I have seen like glimpses of it, but like I know there's a huge like bit of mythology and lore behind it that I have zero knowledge about. The only thing I know about it is just the liminal space thing.
Hmm.
And I think as a movie, I was very engaged by it. Um, I don't know if all of its thematic commentary really comes together, and I know that there's been a lot of discussion about it. I still wrestle with all of those ideas that it supposedly is bringing up if they coalesce in a cohesive whole for me. But the experience of watching the movie, I still found to be very effective. I loved the atmosphere. I think the production design is incredible. I really do love the design elements of the back rooms, of in terms of the sets, in terms of the sound design. As an experience, I very much did enjoy myself. I do think it gets a little off the rails a bit at times, and I don't know if everything, like as I said, thematically what it wants to talk about, I don't think it all lands successfully. I also don't think that Renata Reinsve is a particularly interesting character, and so much of the last half of the movie revolves around that, which was a little bit frustrating for me. But as I said, like as an experience, I did very much enjoy it, and I liked what Kane Parsons has, sort of his ability as a filmmaker to create that tone and atmosphere. I think I would like maybe the script to be just a little bit tighter, but for this first effort, I thought it was actually pretty effective.
I'm a bit of a mixed bag on this one.
Hmm.
Like really mixed. But Jay and I have done the old when we used to review films over at In Session Film, and when we did a lot of directorial debuts, and we would always say something along the lines of, "Didn't work for me, but I can't wait to see what they do next time,"
Hmm.
because there are stuff in there that intrigues me, and that's the first hour of the film. The first hour of the film, tonally creepy, just absolutely. I'm not like the. I didn't know that these sort of what is it, liminal spaces. I didn't know if
Yeah.
I was really pro or against it or whatnot. It terrified the shit out of me, Josh. Like the
Mm.
idea of like this camera just moving slowly down these yellow hallways scared the shit out of me. Not gonna lie, I was very anxious while I was watching the film. But then the second act kicks in. That's when the movie part kicks in,
Yeah.
and the movie part is pretty rough. The Renata Reinsve character, she's a great actress. We're not gonna
Exceptional actress. Yeah.
just saw her in Fjord over in Cannes. She's phenomenal in that. Great in sentimental value last year. She's given like really nothing here. And the character
Well,
on the
like, what
page
is
is
there to
really
define her as a character? Like, I
exactly
don't
like
know
she's
what she is doing in the movie.
yeah, like her character's not much. The optics of the Chiwetel for character is not particularly great. I've read some stuff online about that, and I kind of tend to agree with it about him being like essentially an angry black man. And the white therapist is saying it's his fault, like his whole life. I kind of see the optics there. I kind of understand them. Not kind of, actually, I do understand them.
Yeah.
And
I understand
uh,
that more than people complaining about like the 7 foot tall guy
no, I
at
don't.
the end.
No,
Like
that's
that I
cool.
find to be very silly. But
Yeah,
but
that's
the other
cool.
one I do kind of understand.
Like there's a giant penis monster in Bo's Afraid. Like you
Yeah.
can't like you can't get mad at one thing and not at the other. Like just there's it's a giant projection of Chiwetel Ejiofor. Like I'm not mad about that at all.
Yeah.
Like who cares? Like that stuff. I was like, all right, fine, cool. We're gone down this route. We're going all the way down there. The thing about it is that it's not even their characters I have an issue with in the second half. It's Parsons' uh, over explanation. Now, Josh, you know myself. We are over on Director Watch, and we are covering Christopher Nolan right now.
Yeah.
The episode that it will release this week is over Inception.
Hmm.
And when I watched Backrooms, I felt the Christopher Nolan Inception bug kicking into that movie, where it had to over explain its themes, what those backrooms were, what they meant. There's a literal government conspiracy in part of it. Like, I could not care any less, Josh, about any of that. I just cared about the world. I wanted
Yeah.
the world to keep being built, and that's the problem with a movie like Inception or others like it, where it started to not feel like it could trust the audience to go all the way or just continue to be the creepy, lingering adventure that it was. This, down the rabbit hole we are going. I don't know if that is a we gave you $10 million, you need to explain this kind of thing as a studio, if that's him as a filmmaker or a little bit of column A, column B. I just know it didn't work for me. And it was frustrating, Josh, because I was like, oh, this is a really good movie. And it's got the right tone. It just doesn't have the movie aspect. And then my wife explained to me perfectly what I was experiencing. She said, you're experiencing the effect of what the YouTube clips do. What a YouTube clip like this does, where it sucks you in. And then by the end, you went, why did I watch that? You know what I mean? Like, why did I feel that?
Yeah.
And that is the type of vacuum delivery system that Backrooms is. And if you're into that, cool, you'll hit the next video. Like, you'll see the next film. But I hope that it's less, I hope it is something more original and something different. And something that's, we talked about this with Star Wars. That's a television movie or a television thing being put in the movies. This is a YouTube thing being put into the movies. And I think that there's an interesting thing about, like, he has a good eye. So clearly he's going to have something to say because he's got a good capture of tone and a great way of setting up the camera. But maybe somebody should help him work on the page. And I think that that's okay. Right?
Especially with the first outing, like this movie definitely feels like a lot of attention put into the crafts, into the atmosphere, into the filmmaking. But yeah, from a writing perspective, it just feels like I don't deny that I think that there are deeper levels to this story, and I've seen a lot of writing to that effect. But I just feel like while I'm watching it, it felt so muddled to me, especially in the last section of it, that I don't think it's completely successful on that front. I am admiring of it for sure. And yeah, whatever he wants to do in the future, I think he has already shown to be a very promising talent. And I liked this movie, but I stopped short of like really giving myself over to it because I do think it just felt a little disorganized towards the end.
Its companion box office breakout film is Obsession. Corey Barker's, it's not his first film, but it's like it's going to be his breakout film, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And this film premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival, was picked up by Focus Features, had another screening where I was able to see it at South by Southwest, Josh, and is now on a $750,000 budget, is made over $200 million and is on its path to a potentially $300 million outing at the box office.
Crazy.
It will go down as one of the most successful films from a box office standpoint in film history, which is truly crazy and demonstrates audiences' ability to not only want to see horror films at this point, Josh, but its massive word of mouth has to be, honestly, that's the takeaway we can take away from this, is that word of mouth has to be studied, because I don't remember marketing a lot for this thing going out there, but it's built it in an organic way. Josh, I'm going to say this about the film. When I saw it at South by Southwest, I was pretty gobsmacked by it. I hadn't really seen a lot of great movies at that festival, to be fair, and my expectations were high because I was told by some people that it's a wild ride, and we did get a wild ride because I think that it's a pretty brutal, dark, and give it credit, goes all the way on its idea. I've heard some people say that they think it's funny or darkly funny. I didn't really laugh a lot during this movie, Josh. I don't know where the comedic elements are coming from for people. My audience was very shocked by a lot that was going on, but they weren't laughing. Maybe out of the only laughs that maybe came
Yeah.
were just out of when you watch something in a horror movie and you're
Kind of an
just like,
awkward
you
laugh.
don't know how
Yeah.
to respond. You know what I mean?
The party game scene, I think, has some awkward
It's
laughter there.
super
Of just
awkward.
like, I
Yeah.
don't know what to do because I feel so
I
uncomfortable.
feel trapped literally within
Yeah.
this scene. I think it has an incredible female performance from India, from Indy Navaria, I think is her name. I think she's phenomenal in this film. I think Barker's script is pretty good. I think it's a very effective film in deconstructing the dangers of male fantasies, particularly in a generation right now that is uh, a younger generation than our Josh that have slowly stripped away the rights of women, and in a world now where Roe isn't the law of the land. Here comes a movie about a guy not knowing how to speak to a girl and tell him how he feels, so he strips everything from her autonomy so that he has full control. And then after he's done it, doesn't know how to respond to it. I think it's a pretty damning film to a generation Barker's generation. But more importantly, I think it's also just a vastly thrilling, brutal horror film that is willing to go all the way. I do think, though, towards the end of the film, if I will say one thing about it, I wish it had a scene or two extra from Nikki's perspective, just to either land home the final blow of the message rather than what we were given in the ending, or rather to just give her a chance to actually be able to speak in this film because she's not. But I do think that if you walk out of this movie and you are sympathetic to Bear at all, then you've lost the plot of what this movie is about.
Yeah.
And there have been audiences are going to take it whatever way. It is fascinating that that there hasn't, I felt, been the bigger, larger conversations just yet. But I think they're coming, and I have read a lot from female critics. I know
Hmm.
Sophia is not a particular fan of this film. I know that on my letterbox it is a predominantly large section of men that are really liking this. Straight guys are really liking this, almost to an obsession. And there are the female counterpoints going, this is actually a pretty despicable film. I lie in the middle of thinking it's a pretty good film that has a message that is kind of the purpose is to beat it over its head, because of where we're at in this world. And I gave it a star bump, a half star bump, just because I think its brutality is actually part of the point, and I'm glad that it didn't chicken out. I feel like it's a weird cousin to the Zach Kreger's universe films of Barbarian and Weapons,
Hmm.
and are part of that because of the way in which it can bring on discussion. And so I like the film a lot, Josh. And so, what are your thoughts?
I liked the movie too. When I first saw it, I my first thought was actually like it kind of felt like maybe an 80-minute movie that was stretched out to 100 minutes. It did feel a little repetitive in some aspects, especially for a story that on its surface is essentially doing the monkey's paw thing. It's just here's your wish, but it's not quite what you wanted. And it takes that premise and frames it in a way to look at the very like toxic dynamic that can exist between relationships. And I think particularly modern relationships, which is the reason why this movie seems to be doing so well. I think the way that the youth look at how romantic relationships develop between men and women feels very of the moment, and I think that is why it's so resonant for a lot of people. I do agree that her performance is incredibly committed. I really did love her. I think Michael Johnston as Bear, I think he's actually really good too, and a little bit undersung because obviously he's not doing the more over the top things, but I still think he has to play a character that you clearly are not supposed to relate to. At least you should relate to him, but he has to make him still have some humanity and realistic, and that can be very difficult for a character who is intentionally off-putting. So I did appreciate a lot of it. I do think that as a horror movie, it's very engrossing. I agree that especially like towards the end, maybe it doesn't really hold itself together all that well. And I did not feel like it was an exceptional movie. Like it was a very solid movie that I enjoyed. I didn't think it was a great movie because I think it had some pacing issues and some bits of the story were, yeah, maybe a little too on the nose for me. But as a horror movie, like going experience, I thought it was very, very well done.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one like I know this can sound weird, but we were here at the house and the wife asked, "Hey, do you want to see Backrooms or Obsession?" I'm like, "Well, one, I haven't seen Backrooms, but I don't really know if I want to go down the journey of watching Obsession again. Maybe until it's on home video. It's not really one where you're Jones. I don't understand the people that want to watch it over and over again, Josh. I think it's a pretty it's kind of like it's almost like blue film where it's like this is an experience I don't necessarily want to keep revisiting over and over again. Um, I mean, the fact that it is really the only horror film on the market right now. I don't, I mean, Backrooms, I guess, is
I mean, I think
horror,
Backrooms
but
like
it's,
it kind of counts. It's certainly
kind of
marketed
counts.
sort of in that
But
realm.
like, if we're talking like hardcore horror, like that's kind of what I would consider Obsession a little bit
Well, I also
more,
think I think Obsession is also a movie that is very fun to experience with a crowd though,
Yeah.
because like there are moments in that are really meant to jolt the audience into a scary moment that I think that communal aspect is very fun. Like there's these scenes when, especially like in the bedroom where she's standing off in the shadows and like I did go back to watch the movie again because I wanted to experience that with a crowd and like what their reaction would be when she's like, jumping out or screaming. And I think that coupled with everybody has, or at least can understand what you want to bring to like a relationship.
Yeah.
And I do think that particular commentary is what is really interesting about it too, especially for a younger audience. So, yeah, while there is a lot of brutality and especially directed toward the Nikki character, and I understand why there are people who don't vibe with that and think the movie is being too intentionally cruel to her, but I also agree with you that it's sort of the point as well. It's
Mhm.
sort of underlining that a lot of that is connected back to how this man treats her. And I don't think you are ever supposed to look at Bear and think, yeah, he's acting rationally in any part of the situation. Like I think you are supposed to be judging him constantly for putting her through this terror and not ever having one moment of self-reflection to realize like, no, I shouldn't be doing this. And even like at the very end, his act of setting her free is also like so selfish because okay, now he
He's
set her free. And now she's got to deal with all this trauma that he has forced her to go through. Like
and
it's
also
yeah,
probably
I think
any
it's
of
the
the
point.
crimes that's there. Like it's once again, it's a massive indictment on the selfishness of men and
Hmm.
young boys who, I mean, Josh, I can't get out of my head when I was watching this film and thinking about this movie, I couldn't get out of my head when MSNBC at the time was at the polls for Trump being elected, and they were on different college campuses, and to see all these boys in their polo shirts and blue and like shorts and tennis shoes and red hats showing up to vote for Trump, so then Roe v. Wade could be overturned and that women don't have access to the proper health care. Women don't have control over their bodies. And I thought about that as I'm watching this film because I think about the fact that a generation think about themselves and they think about, well, why can't I say that anymore? Or why can't I be like this anymore? Or why can't I do whatever I want? Or why can't I be with whoever I want to be with? I'm a man. I'm entitled to sort of this stuff. And without thinking about the ramifications of how this is going to be, they think about A instead of thinking all the way to Z, right? And that's the ideal, or that's just the ideal system of young men. But he is criticizing the fact that this is an inherently the generations below us, and we're sitting at here as like 30-year-olds, like we're like people on a porch
Yeah.
at this point. But it's the truth of that. It's a director that's literally a part of that generation, examining them and saying, "We fucked up, and like we're terrible, and we're worse than the people that were here before because." Josh, you and my generation, we voted for progressive things and we voted for people that would keep things safe. And they haven't. And then they have all these massive regrets when the gas prices and the things that they want in this world are all more expensive or out of their reach, or they can't buy a home, or they can't do this, or they can't do that. And I think that that is in large part of this. I don't think that I think that Barker's smart enough not to go out there and state what it is, kind of the Kreger model rather than like an Aronofsky model where I'm just going to tell you whatever the fuck is coming off my head. I remember we were talking about this on Director Watch, but Nolan talked specifically about explaining Memento and how it kind of ruined that a little bit of any of the ambiguity in that movie. And so that's why he doesn't want to do it anymore, because he wants the audience to go down that journey and come to their own conclusions. And I think that the massive irony of this is that it's become a massive hit in the face of examining, and the people that are seeing it over and over again are part of the issue that it's trying to talk about. Because yes, like Nikki, by the end of this movie, she's doing all these crazy, scary, terrible things, but she's doing this because this selfish prick just couldn't go up and do the simple thing, which is handle her rejection if she said no.
Yep.
And that's the terrifying thing is that like the worst thing that it's what my parents used to always say to me. The worst thing, if you go and ask somebody something, the worst thing that they could say is no. This movie firmly examines, no, there is something worse than the word no. It's your own actions on manipulating the system and manipulating choice. And that's what the film is. It's a manipulation of choice. Because when you hear her, like, he wants to finally reverse it, or he has a couple of times to do it, he either backs out of it or he doesn't switch at all. And in the background, you can literally hear her soul is just being like mangled to pieces. It feels like she's being tortured to death. At the end of it, he keeps going on. He's like, yeah, what can you do? And
Yep.
And then it's just then all the carnage that comes after it is just collateral damage. And I think it doesn't all work. There are a couple of things, like I said, that it's just because of the mechanics and being a first time filmmaker. I do think that some of the direction's not as strong as the script is. And I do think that even though the ending's pretty shocking, and the place it leaves her at is very just like bleak. Again, I would have loved to she's left as the final girl, and it is a play on that, and I get that. But it does leave you a little cold. Like,
Yeah.
like honestly, like the new Evil Dead films. Not like the Raimi films, but like the Fede Alvarez one and the one we just got, and the one that's being like I don't know if you've seen the trailer for the new one that's coming out.
Yeah.
But they all kind of feel like they're in this line of like, let's just be bloody and mean and nasty, and I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But that's different than what the original source was like, kind of comedic along with it, tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
And these movies
There are
aren't that anymore.
there are these moments where Nikki is like fighting with the possession that are really interesting and gives you more insight of what she's like personally going through. And I do think we could have probably had just a little bit more of that. Like one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Bear's about to like sneak out and Nikki's like whispering something to him and she's saying like it's asleep. kill me, like, and that's
Yeah.
very chilling and very, very disturbing. And yeah, you do get these glimpses of like her trying to fight with whatever is controlling her. And I do think maybe if we had a little bit more of that to get a greater sense of her own agency within this story, I think that would have been a stronger decision to give her character just a little bit more, because obviously the movie's told through Bear's perspective, but I do think it could have benefited from giving her a little bit more dimension, and I think more moments like that would have helped.
I totally agree with you. Josh, this movie's made it a crap ton of money.
Yeah, it's increasing
It's
throughout the
increasing
weeks, which
every
is
day.
crazy.
It's like
Yeah.
its drops are, I mean, we're seeing like Mando and Grogu getting like 60, 70% drops, and we're seeing this get like 20, 30% bumps on a daily basis. Like,
Yeah.
I saw like
That's insane.
on like on a Monday and
Yeah.
a Wednesday last week, it was still climbing. You're just like, this is crazy. I'm going to ask a really, really dumb question.
Okay.
And I'm only asking it because you know the website we're on. Now I'm going to paraphrase this by saying I don't think it's going to happen, not in a million years. But this is like populist, entertaining, word of mouth, independent filmmaking with a focused features team behind it that has a fall slate that's pretty kind of sleepy. Like Sense and Sensibility remake is not with Daisy Edgar Jones really isn't like speaking Hamnet vibes. Is there a world where you could see this being maybe like a screenplay nominee or makeup contender or, you know, and building sort of a weapons like buzz around it where it has that kind of run in it? I'm not saying best picture because I don't think it's getting anywhere near that. And given the first half of the year consists with what Project Hail Mary, which a lot of people think is getting into best picture right now, and then in a couple weeks the Odyssey. So that's your kind of first half of the year big contenders right there,
Yeah.
right? Just on paper. But this is a proven film with like a 90 something percent on Rotten Tomatoes in its audience score. It's a huge box office success. Is this, Josh, a case where this run ends here and it's a great success story for Focus Features and Corey Barker and his, I guess, $10 million, $15 million next film that he's already starting to line up is the reward? Or do you think that there might be a little more here towards the end of the year awards consideration wise?
I am personally skeptical about that.
I agree.
I think screenplay will be in contention, but I don't know how far it will go. And the thing about Weapons, what Weapons really had was Amy Madigan.
Yeah.
And not that obviously like Indy Navarrete is very good in this movie, but Amy Madigan was like, an industry veteran with
Previous
decades worth of
nominee,
experience. A
Mary
previous
Dad
nominee.
Harris.
Yeah, I feel like that situation was very specific to her, which is sort of funny because the comp that everybody kept making with her that year was, Ruth Gordon in Rosemary's Baby, who very similarly had a very long established career with a bunch of connections. So I think that people kind of, if they want to make that comparison, kind of leave that part out. And I think that's very important. Obviously, this movie has made a ton of money. I think it will be, yes, very notable that people will be talking about it throughout the rest of the year, but I don't know how far it actually gets. Like I said, screenplay is a good place for it, but I still think I think that category will probably fill up with a bunch of other things that are a little bit more attuned to the writer's branch. But, I could see it getting WGA nomination, PGA nomination. I could see it doing very well in some aspects of precursors.
Not a DGA nomination. It's not a first time film.
Not a DGA, no. But like the Producers Guild probably will.
PGA?
will
Oh
do.
yeah, maybe. It could do well at Indie Spirits
Yeah, for
because
sure.
it's a $750,000 film, which is again insane. I think it could do well with critics groups. Because if they really want to champion it, like I think there's really
Indy Navarrete, I think, is like one thing that will I can see a lot of critics groups rallying
I
behind
think she's
her.
going to get a lot of Discovery
Like
Award
breakthroughs,
nominations,
yeah.
breakthrough nominations for her. And maybe that might be it, unless, I mean, actress is pretty stacked. Like you look at the lineup, it's, just of the stuff I've seen at Cannes, there's like 4 or 5 people there. And there's stuff in the fall, like
I've
Sandra.
heard that they might put her supporting though. I've heard that in the ether too.
If they put her
So,
in supporting, I swear to God, like that's like,
well,
I mean, like that's, I mean, I mean, would you, I mean,
no, I think she's a lead, but
she's a lead, but I mean, that
I
would,
understand the
but I
argument
understand
because
what
you
they're
could
trying
say
to do there. Yeah.
it's Bear's
It's their
perspective,
story.
like it's
Yeah.
his story. Yeah, I get the argument. I don't necessarily agree with it, but
She's on that screen a
I
lot.
understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
she is a driving force of that story.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't see it in the long term. Like, I mean, like I'm one of those people right now that's kind of skeptical even about Project Hail Mary getting all the way through the finish line if we were talking about nominations. Just because there's so many big films, that are still yet to play, and we haven't. I mean, a lot of the canned stuff as well. There's just a lot. There's a lot,
Yeah,
and there has to also be like a uniform consensus. Like everybody's got to agree, on what that first half of the film world movie is. And in the case of when Oppenheimer came out, if that's the Odyssey, well, even if it's not the Odyssey in acting categories, you can just assume the texts are all going to get nominated, and you can assume he's going to be in the hunt for director, and that with a 10, with a flat 10, it's probably in. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Even sight unseen, just because he's the guy at the time. You know what I mean? Like you don't really have to say anything more than that. So that really takes up a spot. Project Hail Mary, totally a PGA film, by the way. Like it's gonna, but we're having such a massive box office successful time right now that, and if that continues all the way in the fall, I don't know how much of an obsession, even though it's a massive achievement, it's a massive thing to like, you know, to be this kind of word of mouth, close to 250, maybe even $300 million film, which would be
yeah.
insane. Um, I sometimes the movie, like I'll say this is going to be maybe a backhanded compliment, but this is the truth. It definitely should be nominated for the Golden Globe for the Box Office Achievement Award. And I'm not saying that as like slap at that. It
No,
is by
that
definition the box office achievement of the year.
yeah,
Like
for
for
sure.
it to be a $750,000 film with no existing IP, no existing like regular like the biggest
No
cast member,
stars in it.
like the
Yeah,
biggest cast member is like Andy Richter. You know what I mean? Like
yes,
and your director is like a nobody. Um, for it to make the money it's making is insane.
yeah.
So I think that's not a mean thing to say. It'll be around, but I don't think it'll be like legitimately plant your flag in the races for categories. I think it'll be in like the
Yeah.
6 to 10 to 11 to 15 range on a bunch of things and go from there. And maybe it does get into
Yeah.
screenplay. It could long list itself, maybe in like makeup or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I do think if critics like really decide to make Indie
Yeah,
Navarrete like their thing this year,
she could be the ingenue.
yeah, I like maybe that could happen, because like if when critics like all uniformly decide this is the thing we're pushing, if they can like concentrate that effort, I think sometimes that can often work.
Yeah, I do also think that like if Sense and Sensibility is not good, and I'm sure it's going to be either at Toronto or Telluride. If it's not good, they can make the pivot. They are. I mean, this is the studio that had Begonia last year.
Yeah.
And I thought no way in hell. Now that was Yorgos Lanthimos. Corey Barker's a different person. Um,
Yeah, and actually the one on their slate that I wonder about is the Robert Eggers werewolf movie because
because he was
you
knocking
know
on the door with Nosferatu.
exactly like Nosferatu did not get into any of the top categories,
Mhm.
but 4 nominations is still like pretty good, and I feel like
And if the
that just
movie's
sets
good,
a foundation for him to build from, and that might be their horror movie, like, prestige pick to push. We don't know. That's just speculation, but like at this point, I would kind of feel like that would be the one that they would go for more. But I don't know. Like if that disappoints too, then Obsession might be it. We'll have to see.
I'll tell you this also. I mean, people aren't going to like me saying this, but I said this in 2023. How much is Focus really going to be pushing anything when Big Brother's pushing the Odyssey? Like, when he's around, everybody else kind of has to stay a little quiet. You know what I mean? Because that's how it was. Like everybody was like, "Oh, the
Yeah.
holdovers," and I was like, "Yeah, get out of here." Like that's not happening. Not with this thing around. You know what I'm trying to say, Josh. Like
Yeah.
I know they're two different branches, but they all go into the same parties, and they're all they are technically a part of the same home. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, to be fair, the holdover still, got a Best Picture nomination, one
True.
supporting
That's
actor.
no,
So,
that's
like,
fair.
I don't
Yeah,
think Obsession or really anything on the Focus slate is kind of vying for that spot like right now. But
but I
we'll see.
mean,
We still have a lot of the
maybe
year
this.
left.
Yeah, who knows? But logic sense make just put your money on Sense and Sensibility and forget about the horror films. Though Eggers you're making a great case
I
for Eggers right here. Man, I forgot that was
I'm very
coming out
excited.
at
Yeah,
Christmas time, right?
very excited for that. Yeah, Christmas.
Jesus Christ, we're gonna have a Dune and Avengers and werewolves over at Christmas. Yeah, and you're excited most for the Jumanji movie? Like God,
I
Josh,
can't wait.
Josh,
What
what are
is
we?
it? Is it three or four? I can't remember.
Fourth one, I think.
The fourth one, right?
Is it?
I
I can't even
well, because
remember anymore.
I don't remember.
Because you know what? You want to know why? I
No,
can't remember.
I think it's a fourth because they made two Jumanji movies with The Rock, right?
Yeah,
So this would be the third one of those, but the fourth overall if you count the 90s one.
yeah. This is the third one.
Right. I don't think I saw the second one with The Rock.
I did not see the second one. I remember seeing the first one, and I liked it. It was a
I
surprise. I was
Yeah,
like,
I barely
wow.
remember anything about it, to be
Oh,
honest.
well, I'll come to Chicago. We'll watch them all together. It's not a big thing. Like,
Yeah, I'm dying to revisit the Jumanji
imagine
movies.
if I came all the way to Chicago just to watch those stupid films with you. Just could have done anything in the city. But what do we do? Watch these crappy pieces of entertainment. Josh,
Yeah.
that's it. We've caught up on reviews. Now we don't have to talk about anything else for a little bit. Well, until next week when another movie comes out or
Yeah.
whatever. Because next week is a big film coming out. But can you tell
What is
everybody
next week?
next week is Disclosure Day by
Oh,
this
yeah.
man named Steven Spielberg.
Uh, an
Heard
up
of
and
him,
comer.
Josh?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think he's made like some movies here or there that I've enjoyed.
Well, they say that Corey Barker's the new Steven Spielberg, or Spielberg's the new Corey Barker. You never know.
Well, Spielberg gave him a shout out, so
He did, and so did Nolan. Nolan said he liked Obsession too. Not a lot of. I don't think he's seen Backrooms though. Neither one of them has seen Backrooms. So,
no, not yet.
who do you think's winning that war? By the way, do you think who would you put your money down for going forward if you had to go into one theater over here? If you're going to the Music Box, Chicago, right, the Great Music Box Theater, which is
Yes.
getting its third screen, but right now it only has two.
Well, right now it actually technically only has one because they're working on it.
Because
So,
they're working
but
on
they're
the other
gonna
one.
have
But let's say they had
three.
two. Say they had their original two, right? And they say, Josh, behind door number one's the new Kane Parsons film, and behind door number two is the
Mm.
next Corey Barker film. Which one are you walking into?
To be honest, I think I would actually pick the Kane Parsons one.
I think I agree with you
Yeah,
because I'd be kind of interested to see what kind of fucked up shit he's going to be doing. Like
because I think
I'm sure the other one's good, but visually speaking, I think I could have like a better experience with Kane Parsons. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
because I think Backrooms as a piece of like filmmaking and direction,
Yeah,
that one
that's
intrigued
better.
me a little bit more than Obsession. Even though I think Obsession is probably a better written movie.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you, Josh. Josh, tell everybody where they can find you and all your work on the internet.
You can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd at JR Parham, and you can find my work at Next Best Picture and Awards Watch.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky at Ryan McQuade 77. If you like podcasts, we have the Director Watch podcast that is going to be releasing this week. We're covering Inception. Got our friend, buddy, and writer on this here website, Griffin Schiller, joining us for that.
So did every 30 minutes, did you stop the recording and just recap everything that you had already talked about and just did that continually? Yeah.
I mean, I really should have. That would have been a great bit. But I was kind of
by the way, I do really like that movie. I do really like Inception, but my God, that film's exposition drives me crazy.
It gets worse every time I watch it. But there is also something extremely nostalgic about it too, Josh.
Oh, yeah.
No, I was very respectful to Griffin because it's I think he said his favorite film of all time. He has a personal connection with it, and I knew Jay would be the jerk about that on the show, so I let him be that way, which is,
yeah. Well,
let Jay be that way. Come out looking spotless. So you can listen to that on Thursday. iTunes, Spotify, 5-star reviews are greatly appreciated. While you're on the website, sign up for the newsletter. It's the best place to get all of our news, reviews, interviews, and podcasts sent to you all in one place. Next week, we will be back to talk about Steven Spielberg's latest film, Disclosure Day. I'm looking forward to it. It's one of the more highly anticipated films of the year, and we will give you our full spoiler thoughts next week on Disclosure Day. And for the love of God, people, get to the theater and see a Steven Spielberg movie. I keep saying this. We don't know how many new ones we're going to get from him. Everybody's got a clock. We just lost Clint Eastwood this week. He sort of retired, if you want to believe that. And so
retired, he retired. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we lost him. You know what I mean?
I know, but when you say we lost,
no, we can't find him. Or literally, I left him at this coffee table the other day. Wandered off, couldn't find him. But a chair was missing, so maybe he's having a nice conversation with that chair. Anyway, next week we'll be talking about Disclosure Day. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time.